The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. Almost 2 billion people watched them say, "I do." But behind the velvet ropes and the ancient palace walls, tears were falling. And just like that, Hollywood and the entire world had a new obsession.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to StarScope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
It is always, so fascinating to peel back the curtain on these massive global moments.
It really is. And for this deep dive, we are unpacking a pop culture earthquake that has everyone talking. We're looking at the Sussex's 8th wedding anniversary, specifically the stunning drop of 24 never-before-seen photos and the explosive behind-the-scenes palace drama that preceded them all.
Right, because the context here is just wild.
To do this, we're pulling from a wide stack of sources. We'll be analyzing accounts from Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, insights from royal author Tom Quinn's book, original press reports, and on-the-record quotes from the actual wedding tailor, A.J. Murpuri.
Plus King Charles's former butler, Grant Harold.
Exactly. And of course, we had to dissect the actual Instagram posts themselves. I want to start by framing the sheer scale of the 2018 event because the context here is really everything.
Oh, for sure. May 2018.
May 2018, St. George's Chapel. 1.9 billion people tuned in to watch what looked like an absolute fairy tale. But fast forward to today, their 8th anniversary, and Harry and Meghan dropped 24 private, highly intimate photos that the palace never intended for the public to see.
Yeah, that phrase, never intended for the public to see, is really the anchor here. I mean, the palace operates as a massive PR machine.
Right, very controlled.
Very. And it tightly controls the visual narrative. A royal wedding isn't just a family celebration. It is a state event that is sort of disguised as a family celebration.
Wow, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and the mechanics of that control mean every single image released to the global press is usually vetted, sanitized, and perfectly composed to project this unshakable institutional stability.
I'm trying to wrap my head around how that institutional control actually functions behind closed doors, though. Because looking at the sources, that facade seemed to, really crack under the pressure in the days leading up to the ceremony.
Well, it definitely cracked.
According to Harry's memoir, Spare, there was this infamous clash between Meghan and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, over the bridesmaids' dresses.
Right. Specifically, it involved Princess Charlotte's dress. She was 3 years old at the time.
Just a toddler.
Yeah. And according to the detailed account in Spare, Kate reached out 4 days before the wedding. She complained that the dress was too big, too long, and too baggy.
4 days before the wedding is intense.
Right. And Harry wrote that Kate mentioned Charlotte had cried after trying it on and that Kate believed the dress needed to be entirely remade, not just altered.
The aftermath of that is where the narrative splinters, which is so interesting. Harry comes home to find Meghan sobbing on the bathroom floor.
It's just such a heavy image.
It is. Now, looking at the sources impartially, there are very conflicting accounts of who upset whom. We want to just report what's out there. Early tabloid reports widely claim that Meghan made Kate cry.
Right, that was the dominant headline for a long time.
But then, in her 2021 Oprah interview, Meghan stated that the reverse happened, that Kate had upset her, but later apologized and sent flowers. Meghan emphasized it wasn't a massive confrontation, and she felt it wouldn't be fair to get into the granular details because Kate had taken accountability.
Let's complicate that a bit by looking at the broader historical and human context. Because royal author Tom Quinn wrote in his book that things were said on both sides in the heat of the moment.
Which makes sense. Tensions were incredibly high.
Exactly. And when you bring in the perspective of the tailor, A.J. Murpuri, who was physically in the room fixing these dresses, he went on the record to say he didn't witness any explosive fight at all.
Really? Nothing at all?
Nothing explosive. From his vantage point, it was just nerve-wracking standard wedding stress.
I look at all this and I have to ask, was this really about a hemline? I mean, I kind of view this dress drama as a pressure cooker valve.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. Was the dress just the safest thing to argue about? A stand-in for the overwhelming pressure of marrying into the most scrutinized family on the planet.
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
You can't control the global media dissecting your every move. You can't control the deep family fractures, but you can control how a piece of silk fits a 3-year-old.
I see where you're going with the pressure cooker analogy, but we also have to remember that this wasn't just internal anxiety finding a random outlet. It was likely a clash of cultural communication styles, too.
Oh, that's true. The cultural differences are huge.
Right, because the palace expects stoicism. They operate on a never complain, never explain framework. But Meghan's background is rooted in direct, vocal American communication.
So they just fundamentally didn't speak the same language when it came to conflict.
Exactly. The dress wasn't just a proxy for stress. It represents a fundamental breakdown in how two completely different worlds resolve an issue.
That makes a lot of sense. It wasn't just about a dress. It was about how you survive in a room when the walls are closing in.
And think about the isolation of that moment for Meghan. She is stepping into an ancient institution thousands of miles from her previous life, knowing her every micro-expression will be globally dissected.
It's just unimaginable pressure.
Having your family drama play out on an international stage while trying to assimilate into a rigid hierarchy, that would stretch anyone's emotions to the absolute breaking point.
It makes that image of her sobbing on the floor so much more visceral. But wait until you hear what these unseen photos actually captured, and why a former royal butler says the palace is likely fuming about them being released. That's coming right up.
The contrast between the behind-the-scenes tension we just discussed and the visual narrative they released this week is staggering. It is honestly a masterclass in shifting public perception.
So let's dive into the actual photo dump. Meghan drops these 24 photos on Instagram, split into 2 very distinct carousels. The first one is the daytime vibe, captioned with a single sun emoji.
Okay, I loved this part.
Right. And the audio track they chose is Paul Abdul's Forever Your Girl.
Which is a very deliberate, upbeat, almost defiant song choice for an institution that usually relies on, classical orchestral arrangements.
Definitely. And the intimacy of these daytime photos is striking. There's one specific shot in the cloisters where Harry is quietly inspecting Meghan's all-white bouquet.
And there's such a crucial detail there.
Yes. The sources note that Harry handpicked some of those flowers from their private garden the day before the wedding. That included forget-me-nots, which were famously Princess Diana's favorite flower.
By including the forget-me-nots, he brings his mother into that highly pressurized space in a way the public couldn't immediately consume. It's a very quiet reclamation of family amidst this massive state spectacle.
Then we hit the second carousel, the evening photos, marked with moon emoji. The audio track shifts to Wilson Pickett's Land of a Thousand Dances.
Such a great song.
Right. This is the Frogmore House reception, which was hosted by King Charles. These photos are electric. There's a high-energy whirlwind first dance. They're sharing a kiss on the dance floor. It's sweaty. It's chaotic. It's just so alive.
And that energy is exactly why Grant Harold, King Charles's former butler, called this release an unprecedented rebellion.
Unprecedented rebellion. That is strong phrasing.
It is, but we have to look at the historical precedent of royal photography to understand why he said that. Royal households have incredibly strict no-camera rules at these private evening receptions.
Really? Like, strictly enforced?
Very strictly. Harold pointed out that if staff ever caught anyone using a personal camera or phone, they were instructed to physically take the device and delete the photos on the spot.
Wow. Which explains why we have never seen a single reception photo from William and Kate's 2011 wedding.
Precisely. The inner sanctum of a royal wedding is supposed to remain completely sealed. The monarchy's survival relies on maintaining a certain level of mystique.
So letting people see behind the curtain is dangerous for them.
Exactly. If you see them sweating, drinking, and doing a wild first dance, the illusion of the untouchable, divinely appointed elite starts to evaporate.
Right. They just look like normal people having a party.
Releasing these photos bypasses the standard royal protocol that keeps that specific illusion intact.
I find the composition of the photos just as telling as the lighting, too. If you look at who is actually in these pictures, it's a total departure from royal tradition.
Oh, absolutely. Who is missing?
The senior working royals. King Charles is the only one visible in the entire dump, and even then he's only seen from behind, walking Meghan down the aisle.
Very symbolic.
Totally.
Yeah.
The focus is entirely shifted to their chosen circle friends, Hollywood guests like Elton John, and Meghan's longtime PR advisor, Isabel May. Harry looks, as the butler described it, goofy and very hairy.
What stands out when analyzing this from a media literacy perspective is how the aesthetics of these photos perfectly align with the rebellious message they are sending.
Oh, I'm fascinated by the visual mechanics of this. How so?
Well, these photos were taken by Chris Allerton back in 2018, but if we connect this to the broader cultural trends we're seeing now in 2026, they were incredibly ahead of their time.
Oh, that's interesting because trends have changed so much.
Right. For a very long time, the dominant trend in high-end wedding photography was a very safe, soft, ultra-wide aperture look. Think creamy, blurred-out backgrounds.
Very pristine.
Pure, effortless photojournalism, the fly-on-the-wall aesthetic where everything looks perfect. But in 2026, there's a massive shift happening toward high-effort cinematic storytelling.
So a move away from perfection towards something that feels a bit more raw.
Yes, exactly. Allerton's 2018 photos embody that 2026 shift perfectly. We are seeing a rejection of that soft, safe bokeh replaced by direct flash.
Like those evening reception shots.
Right. That black and white, direct flash look at their Frogmore reception adds an honest, gritty edge. It feels less like a state portrait and more like a vintage 90s editorial spread.
You can see it in the motion blur, too. The photos of them dancing aren't perfectly frozen in time. The photographer allowed a drag to the shutter.
It captures the chaos.
It really does. It almost makes you feel the bass of the music in the room.
It's energy-driven legacy imagery. And how does releasing a blurry photo dismantle the royal PR machine? By choosing to publish these specific types of photos, imperfect, noisy, emotionally charged, they are actively rejecting the polished, stiff perfection expected of the institution.
They trade the safe aesthetic for something undeniably human.
Exactly. It makes them immune to tabloid attempts to paint them as out-of-touch elites because they are showing you the messy, joyful reality themselves.
Think about how you curate your own Instagram or social media. We all do a micro version of this, right? We trade stiff, posed photos for casual photo dumps to seem more relatable, more authentic. We curate our candids. Harry and Meghan are essentially doing the exact same thing, just on a massive geopolitical scale.
It is the ultimate modern PR strategy, weaponized relatability.
Weaponized relatability. I
Yeah.
love that phrase. If you're loving these Hollywood twists and royal secrets, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
There is so much more to unpack.
Because that's not even the wildest part. Later in this deep dive, we'll talk about Harry's highly unusual anniversary gift to Meghan and a surprising twist on a British Airways flight.
That pivot to relatability really crystallizes when you look at how they celebrated this week, far away from the rigid structures of 2018.
We are a very long way from St. George's Chapel right now. Fast forward to 2026, and they are living this very low-key life in Montecito, California.
The West Coast lifestyle.
Exactly. Meghan gave the public a peek into that current reality on her Instagram stories, and the contrast is just jarring.
You definitely don't see grand banquets, state trumpeters, or velvet ropes anymore.
Not at all. Instead, you see Harry in track pants and a polo shirt, casually carrying a lemon elderflower cake into the kitchen.
Which is such a great callback.
Yeah, the flavor is a direct nod to their original 2018 wedding cake. It's got 4 candles on it, and he's singing to Meghan while their kids, Archie, who is 7, and Lilibet, who is 4, are cheering in the background.
It is a domestic scene that actively grounds them, but the detail that requires real analysis is the anniversary gift.
Oh, the bronze penguins.
Yes.
Harry gifted Meghan a bronze statue of 2 hugging penguins. The backstory she shared for this is incredibly quirky. At their engagement party years ago, they made all their friends wear animal onesies.
Which is hilarious to picture.
Right, and Harry and Meghan went as penguins. Her reasoning, as stated in the post, was, quote, because penguins mate for life.
On the surface, it's a sweet, slightly eccentric anecdote, but if we dig into the symbolism of the penguin, it carries a heavy metaphorical weight given their well-documented journey.
I was thinking the exact same thing about the symbolism. Let's look at what penguins actually do. These are animals that survive by huddling together in the freezing cold, enduring the harshest, most unforgiving environments on Earth.
The parallel is definitely there.
I have to wonder, is this their ultimate symbol for surviving the icy royal institution? Are these photos and this little bronze statue their way of completely reclaiming their narrative by essentially saying, we survived the freeze?
That is a really compelling analytical angle. I mean, the royal institution has frequently been described by former staff, royal biographers, and even its own members as cold, rigid, and unforgiving.
So a survival mechanism is pretty much required.
Exactly. When you are inside an apparatus like that, you have to adapt. For Harry and Meghan, forming that impenetrable unit of two huddling together against the institutional freeze was their way of weathering the storm of relentless public scrutiny and deep family fallout.
It's the classic us against the world mentality, codified in bronze.
And when you combine the release of those rebellious, blurry photos with these intimate glimpses of their Montecito life, it is a masterclass in narrative reclamation.
They are completely taking back the reins.
They are no longer subjects waiting for the palace PR machine to issue a formal statement. They are their own storytellers now. They've traded the rigid spectacle of royalty for authentic, emotional storytelling, curating their legacy entirely on their own terms.
That desire for unscripted, genuine connection actually explains why Meghan's recent solo trip made such headlines too. She was flying back from Geneva, where she had been attending the Lost Screen Memorial.
A very heavy engagement.
It really was.
She was there doing advocacy work, specifically highlighting the harm of the digital world on children.
Extremely important work. And on her return flight, British Airways flight BA269, the crew did something that completely contrasts with the formal environments she used to navigate.
What did they do?
The flight crew gave her a heartfelt, handwritten note wishing them a happy anniversary, and they even brought treats for Archie and Lilibet. Meghan posted about it, noting how deeply touched she was by the gesture.
Oh, that is so sweet, and it's the perfect juxtaposition to end on, really.
How so?
Well, you have the warmth of everyday people, a flight crew taking a few minutes to write a human note, contrasted directly with the often icy, heavily choreographed, formal relations we read about within the institution she left behind.
That is such a stark contrast.
It highlights the kind of interactions they seem to value and promote now: personal, unscripted, and genuinely warm.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next in the world of pop culture, because we are always tracking how these massive figures reshape their public narratives.
Navigating the shift from being a heavily guarded symbol of the British state to a modern, independent curator of your own celebrity is, it's a complex tightrope walk. We are basically watching them rewrite the rules of engagement in real time.
So what does this all mean for us watching at home? We started this deep dive by talking about the rigidity of the royal machine, how everything's supposed to be clean, categorized, and strictly controlled.
Right, totally manufactured.
But Harry and Meghan essentially broke the machine. They took the blurry, sweaty, tear-stained reality of their experience, bypassed the traditional media gatekeepers entirely, and just published it themselves.
Because they realize that in today's media landscape, authenticity, even when it's messy, is far more valuable than institutional perfection.
So I want to leave you with one last thing to mull over. If a single photo dump on Instagram can shatter years of strict royal protocol and instantly shift a global narrative, what does that say about the true power of image in the modern age? The palace may have the crown, but Harry and Meghan have the camera. Who is really writing history now?
That is the million-dollar question.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.